I don't know how to move on from this. I don't know what to do. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my kitchen. So this week I'm bringing you a very special birthday episode because it's my birthday. Well, actually it will have already been my birthday by the time you're seeing this. I'm posting this a couple days after, but regardless, I'm turning 23. It is my second birthday in the middle of quarantine. Don't worry, I've already thrown myself a pity party. So to celebrate my birthday, I am making my own birthday cake. Kind of. I'm not a huge fan of cake. I think it's super sweet. That's why I'm a horrible cake decorator, is because I never make cakes. Forever, for all of my birthdays ever, my mom has always made either some kind of like brownie or like a cookie cake. I usually get a cookie cake. So this week we are going to be making a milk and cookies cookie cake? Milk and cookie cake? Milk and cookies cake? Something like that. So basically it's going to be like a cookie cake on steroids. It's not going to just be a flat cookie with frosting. It'll have layers to it. It'll be, you know, stacked. So without further ado, let's get started. So to start, we are going to spray and line 3 9-inch cake circles. I wanted to do a personal sized cake, like a 6-inch cake, but I either was wrong in thinking I had 6-inch pans or I can't find my 6-inch pans. So this recipe will make technically 4 8-inch pans. I'm using 3 9-inch pans, whatever will work. So we are going to spray all these down and then line them with some parchment circles, just to make sure that the cookies don't stick. And now we will set them off to the side for now. All right, so now for the cookie part. I have all my ingredients scaled out right here as per usual. The entire recipe along with my blog post will be linked down in the description box below. Just as a forewarning, I do scale out my recipes in grams, like with a scale by weight. But as a convenience, I do offer it in volume as well, in cups, the US cups measurements. But I do, like I said, formulate my recipes based off of weight. So just keep that in mind. If you get different results or if something changes or something comes out weird, I do formulate by weight first. So the nice thing about this recipe is that you don't need a stand mixer to make this because your butter is melted. So I'm gonna put the butter in the bowl here. This is granulated sugar and brown sugar, and I'm gonna go ahead and whisk that together. And then I'm gonna add the rest of my wet ingredients. So this is 2 eggs, 2 egg yolks, vanilla, and milk. Now I'm going to switch over to my spatula so that we can add our dry ingredients. This is a mixture of bread flour and all-purpose flour, partially because if you use a little bit of bread flour in your recipe, it makes the cookies chewier. It has to do with like gluten content and stuff like that. You can absolutely just use all-purpose flour if you don't have any bread flour, but it will affect the texture of the cookie a little bit, and I wanted to get something that was a little chewier, just because that's kind of what I like in a cookie. So this is all-purpose bread flour, salt, baking powder, baking soda, and cornstarch. All right, so we are just going to mix that in, give it a good fold. So now that almost all the dry ingredients are incorporated, there are still a few flour spots. I'm gonna add the chocolate chips. I do it at this stage because then I can still work the dough a little longer and incorporate it to mix in the chocolate chips without over mixing it, especially because I'm using bread flour. I don't want to overwork the gluten and make a tough cookie. So this stage is probably your best bet to add any kind of inclusions, whether you're doing chocolate chips or pretzels or caramel pieces or whatever. Just do it right before the flour is completely incorporated. And now, because it's my birthday, I was gonna add sprinkles also. But all I have are these Easter sprinkles that are mostly green with like colorful eggs in them. That'll work.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Damn, I guess I'm stronger than I thought. I don't know how to move on from this. I don't know what to do. I was too strong. So maybe use a wooden spoon for this. I'm devastated. What the hell? I swear to God, if this breaks, it's over. Now, if you want to use this recipe for regular chocolate chip cookies, you can definitely do that too. I haven't used this recipe for that, so I'm not sure what the spread looks like. But if you just portion them out, chill them for about an hour, and then bake them off at like a similar temperature, I would do 325 or 350 for a much shorter amount of time, obviously. It'd probably work out great. I do have a video on my channel already for chocolate chip cookies. If you're looking for a really good recipe, it's brown butter chocolate chip cookies, and they're to die for. All right, so now that everything is just barely mixed together, we're gonna bring these pans back and distribute it hopefully evenly enough into the pans. Obviously, the best way to distribute this evenly is to scale it out. And I'm thinking that I maybe should have done that, but we're here now, so. All right, and my hands are clean, obviously, so I'm just gonna. All right, so now that these are all filled, we're gonna go ahead and bake them. Because these are essentially just massive insulated cookies, we wanna bake them kind of low and long so that they don't burn and crisp up too much. So they're gonna go in the oven at 325 for about 20 minutes or so. I'm gonna check them after 20. They could take up to 30, 35. But when the edges are set in like golden brown kind of, but the inside is still soft, I'm gonna go ahead and pull them because I do want it to be cuttable. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop them in the oven, and then we'll regroup here to talk about the frosting. Hi guys, tragedy hath struck. So I screwed up just a little bit. The cookies are out of the oven. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. I set them down on my stove to cool, and then I like started doing other stuff like cleaning and like moving things around, and then when I came back to the cookies, I was like, oh my god, I gotta get these out of their pans so that they can cool, so that I can frost them and eat them. I went to go take one out and it was not cooled in the slightest, and it just fell apart in my hands. So we went from being potentially 4 8-inch rounds to 3 9-inch rounds to 2 9-inch rounds. That's baker's math for you. Luckily, the other two survived. They're totally fine, and we're gonna keep the show on the road. Under normal circumstances, I probably would have like cried and made a third layer like really fast, but I really don't have time for that right now, and I think it will be fine with just 2 layers. So just so you're aware, when you see me frost this cake and you're not wondering where the 3rd layer went, I did in fact screw up. But when they came out of the oven, they were beautiful and they were wonderful and golden brown. It was just, I effed up. So if you learn anything from this video, make sure you let the layers cool completely in their pans, or you will end up like me, short 1 layer. Now moving on to the frosting, we are making a Swiss meringue buttercream for the frosting because this is for me and I don't really like American buttercream. It's largely way too sweet for me, and so I usually opt for Swiss meringue buttercream. I would show you how to make that right now, but just mentally, I can't do it. So I'm gonna pass this over to voiceover Amanda, and she will teach you how to make Swiss meringue buttercream.
I'll take it from here. So what you're going to want to do is scale out some granulated sugar and egg whites into your mixing bowl. I use pasteurized carton egg whites here, but we're going to be cooking the egg whites, so you can use fresh egg whites from the shell as well. It really does not matter. Then I'm going to put it over a bain-marie, which is just a pot with about 1 inch or 2 inches of water in there. And I'm going to set it on a medium-high heat so that the water starts steaming and bubbling. Once the water starts steaming and the eggs start to heat up, you're going to want to whisk them and keep them moving. Otherwise, the eggs that are touching your bowl are going to actually start to cook. So just keep whisking and keep moving them around. And you're going to want to cook until you hit about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. This might take a couple minutes, so just keep whisking and keep checking the temperature, keep monitoring the heat, and make sure your bowl is not sitting in the water. So if you use a tall enough pot, it should just be sitting just above the water so only the steam is touching the bowl. Once you've hit about 160 Fahrenheit, you're going to want to bring it over to your mixer. I used to just use a hand mixer, so you can definitely use a hand mixer for this part, but a stand mixer definitely makes things easier because then you can walk away. So just bring your mixer up to a high speed and let it whip for a while. At this point, we're just making a regular Swiss meringue, so we're just cooling down the meringue and incorporating air to get it to those stiff, glossy peaks. Once it starts getting thick and glossy like this, we're ready to start turning it into buttercream. So you can go ahead and start adding the butter. It should have cooled down considerably at this point, so it shouldn't melt the butter, but if it does, you can always put some ice cubes on the bottom of the bowl or stick it in the fridge and return it to the mixer once it's cooled down. So go ahead and slowly add your butter while it is still mixing and whipping. And add the butter about a tablespoon at a time so as not to overwhelm the meringue mixture or overwhelm your mixer. With Swiss meringue, it's usually either too hot or too cold if you're having an issue. So if the mixture looks a little curdled and lumpy, it's probably because your butter is too cold. So just stick it over a bain-marie or use a blowtorch to heat up the sides of the bowl. And if it's looking a little soupy and thin, it's probably because everything was too warm. So put some ice cubes underneath it or stick it in the refrigerator and then bring it back to the mixer. Swiss meringue is really easy to make and really easy to fix as well if you're having problems. And oftentimes Swiss meringue will look either curdled or soupy right before it is actually ready. And seemingly in an instant, it will just come together and actually start to look like buttercream. So here I'm just adding the last couple tablespoons of butter. Now at this point you want to keep whisking it for a little bit just to make sure that the butter is completely incorporated and everything is smooth and silky. You'll know that it's done when it starts to look pale and almost white in color. It shouldn't look super yellowy from the butter. If it does, that means the butter is not integrated fully yet. So just keep whipping it on a medium high speed. And once everything's all combined, make sure you add flavorings. So you definitely want to add a little bit of salt, like a teaspoon or so for a batch this size. Add vanilla or peppermint or literally anything you can think of. At this point, the Swiss meringue doesn't really taste like much. It just tastes like sugar. So any flavorings that you can think of can go in this buttercream. And it's not too sweet. It's nice and fluffy and creamy and dreamy, and it's my favorite. I love it.
If you'll remember at the beginning, I said that I wanted this to be like a milk and cookies cookie cake. And for a while I was considering doing like cereal milk, like Fruity Pebbles kind of a thing, but I thought that'd be way too much, but I still wanted it to taste kind of milky. So I got this idea off of another YouTuber, and I will leave the video down below where I got this idea from and the recipes. They get all the credit for this. I did not come up with this. So basically it involves using dried milk solids or dried milk powder. I used the Carnation brand and mixing it with water to get like a paste, and then whipping that in with your completed Swiss meringue buttercream. So, and I did that and I tried it and it was oddly really good. It's not super sweet. It tastes kind of like vanilla milk. Cause like milk doesn't really have a taste. It just tastes like, it's just milk. But it tastes like vanilla milk, which I am really not that upset about. And I think would be really, really good with the cookie cake. So that's done. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my cookie layers, which have been chilling in the freezer because I'm very paranoid. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab those from the freezer, and we'll go ahead and assemble this cake and get it finished up. You see, I told you the other 2 layers came out perfectly fine. We're not gonna talk about this one anymore. So, you can leave them like this. You can take your layers that have baked here, they're perfectly beautiful, they're fine, stack them, that's it, they're done. However, because I like to make things difficult for myself, and also now, especially because I only have the 2 layers, also because you have these edges here that are crispy and not hard, like you can definitely cut into them, but they're crispy from being baked. Mine are fine, but if you over baked them, sometimes it can get hard to cut into this because of the edges, and you end up just like squishing it and your frosting just like leaks out everywhere. So in an attempt to solve all of my problems, we're gonna make this into a personal sized birthday cake. We're adapting and overcoming here on this channel. You know, things change. They don't always go to plan, but you have to be able to adapt and overcome. This could be my downfall. I maybe possibly should just leave them like this, but we've already had 2 casualties. We might as well just go for it. So I have a 6-inch round here. And it actually kind of fits in perfectly with where the cookies kind of rose up on the sides. Wish me luck. I'm just gonna cut around the outside here without cutting the round, hopefully. Hey, and now you have more snacks. That's 1. And that's 2. And now, even though I couldn't find my 6-inch cake pans, we have 2 beautiful 6-inch cookies. Let's get to assembly. So, we're almost done. So to decorate, I have my 2 cake rounds. I've got a cake stand with my 6-inch round cake board on it. I put a wet paper towel underneath it so that the board wouldn't move around. I have my frosting, and then I have some chocolate chips and the same sprinkles that I used earlier. I don't know if I'm gonna put them on top, but it's birthday, so who knows. I'm just gonna take a little bit of this buttercream here just to squish it on. I have too much buttercream now because I scaled this recipe for 3 layers. Cookie, buttercream, cookie, buttercream, cookie, buttercream. Now there's only 2 cookies, which means there's only 1 layer in between. It's fine. Everything's fine. Just gonna smooth that out. And then I'm gonna put some of those sprinkles in the middle because it's my birthday. We're gonna take the second one. This is the pretty one, which is why it's going on top. And I was gonna leave the top bare, but I have all this frosting, so I might as well use it. All right, class, what do we say when something doesn't look super cookie cutter clean? It's rustic. Very good, very good. All right, and now in an attempt to use some more of this buttercream, we're gonna put cute little stars on top so that I also have somewhere to put candles. All right, and I chopped up some chocolate chips so that they are now unrecognizable. And those are gonna go in the middle. You know, when we set out to make my birthday cake, I didn't realize this would turn into making a personal sized birthday cake. But you know, that's just how it works sometimes. You adapt and overcome and you make something that is still delicious. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on my birthday. Well, technically, like I said, a couple days after my birthday. But I think this was a success. I mean, we only had 2 casualties. The spatula and one of the layers of cake. But I think all things considered, that's not that bad. You know, we still have something to show for it in the end, and I'll count that as a success. Also, by the way, cutting into this, as you can see, I did cut into this, minimal squishage. Squishage? It didn't really like squish the frosting out. It did a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, but I think if I were to have refrigerated this first and then cut it, I don't think anything would have squished out. So yeah, if you guys try this, let me know. The frosting is so weird. It tastes so good. If you're looking for something that's not too sweet, that has a really good flavor still, this is delicious. It tastes like vanilla milk. But like I said, I will leave the original recipe for that down below, and I will link my recipe and my blog post down below as well, so go ahead and check me out there. I have all of my recipes on my blog as well as a few other things, so don't forget to like and subscribe. It is my birthday after all, and since none of you brought me anything, it's the very least that you can do. I'm kidding, do whatever you want. If you make this, tag me, let me know. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and everything. All of that will be linked down below. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, week, whatever, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.